Hello, everyone. My name is Elsie, and I'd like to welcome you to the 2025 reporting season kickoff. We have a lot to share with you today, starting with the state of the registry, sharing some of TCR's work over the past year and our priorities in the year ahead. Then we'll move on to policy and guidance updates, then important information to know as you begin reporting in 2025 and staying connected with us, followed by a Q&A at the end of the webinar. Before we begin, I'll go over some quick housekeeping tips that most of you are no doubt familiar with, but it doesn't hurt to share a quick reminder. We are recording today's webinar and we'll be sharing a copy of the recording and the slides with all attendees and registrants who were unable to attend once the recording is available. All attendees are on mute by default, and feel free to ask your questions throughout your meeting by typing your questions into the Q&A box, which is typically found at the in the Zoom menu bar on the bottom of your screen. Today's speakers include our dedicated leader, Amy Holm, Executive Director of the Climate Registry. Amy provides strategic direction for the organization, oversees the development of our innovative carbon measurement and disclosure programs, and spearheads thought leadership events. Lauren Cleary, Sustainable Programs and Verification Associate. She's responsible for conducting the post-verification review before inventories are published and publicly shared. Lauren is one of the TCR staff who is assisting members and verifiers on the help desk. And myself, Elsie Andreev, Sustainable Programs Associate. I joined the Member Services Group after working on the Net Zero portal to tie in my knowledge with developing net zero targets and how members can set and achieve goals to meet their targets and be recognized under the Climate Registered Accelerator Recognition Program, which I'll dive into later. Other key member services staff include Nick Williams, the Director of Sustainability, and Crystal Gawley, Sustainable Program Senior Manager. Nick and Crystal have worked tirelessly together over the last year to improve membership offerings and expand the opportunities for members to engage with one another virtually and in person. And now I'll pass it off to Amy for the state of the registry.
Thank you so much, Elsie, and thank you to all our valuable members for joining us today. Been looking at a number of the names here, and it's good to see some old friends, and thank you again for your many years of membership and being part of the Climate Registry community. So at the Climate Registry, we'll offer more than just carbon reporting. We're committed to building trusted and transparent partnerships that prioritize human insight on the path to sustainability. And now more than ever, it's critical that we all do everything we can to reduce emissions and mitigate climate change. Decarbonization is the fastest and most effective way to take climate action, and TCR is here to help you navigate the complexities of that progress. Our registry services team is dedicated to supporting your organization, not only reporting emissions, but also making meaningful progress towards deep emissions reductions in an evolving regulatory landscape. As we look ahead to 2020, as we look ahead in this year, we're excited to strengthen our work across key pillars, which we define as connect, educate, and empower. So for Connect, we are dedicated to deepening engagement with our members through new member town halls, creating a space for collaboration and shared learning. We're also evolving our Climate Registered Accelerator program to enhance and to provide enhanced recognitions for emissions reduction and climate leadership. So far, we have recognized 4 members in this newly revamped recognition program, and we are excited to add many other members to this list in 2025. Now, on the global stage, we're gearing up for COP30 in Brazil, ensuring that our members and U.S. state leaders have a presence and a voice in critical climate discussions. Educate is the second of our key pillars. Education is about to further support our members by expanding our educational resources. Our Thinkific learning platform will house new training modules, making it easier to access key guidance and best practice information. We're also updating our protocols, trainings, and resources to ensure that organizations have the latest tool to meet regulatory requirements and drive meaningful emissions reduction. Empower is a third pillar of our initiatives. Empower means that we are continuing to invest in the tools and services that empower our members. CRIS upgrades will improve reporting functionality and user experience. We're integrating Scope 3 and international emission factors to help organizations manage their broader carbon footprint. Additionally, we're looking to expand our verification assurance services to maintain the highest standards of accuracy and credibility in emissions reporting. And in 2025, this will include revisiting our batch verification program, as well as adding new verification bodies. Through these initiatives, we're reinforcing our commitment to you to provide trusted, transparent, and credible climate solutions. Next slide. So as we reflect on COP29 in Baku, we're energized by the leadership and collaboration we've seen across sectors to drive meaningful climate action. The Climate Registry, alongside Climate Action Reserve, co-hosted a bipartisan delegation, North American leaders fostering connections and advancing key climate priorities. Some of our delegation included TCR members, including Pedro Pizarro, President and CEO of Edison International, Carolyn Choi, Senior Vice President of Corporate Affairs and Policy at Edison International, Yvonne McIntyre, Vice President of Federal Affairs at PG&E, and Olga Faktorovich Allen, Senior Director for Climate Integration at App Global, and a number of her colleagues. The TCR plays an active role at COP29, hosting and participating in events focused on subnational leadership, policy innovation, and scalable climate solutions. At the America is All In Action Center, we convened a discussion on accelerating state-level climate action, featuring leaders from U.S. states, including Washington Governor Jay Inslee, California Secretary of Natural Resources Wade Crowfoot, Maryland Secretary of the Environment Serena McElwain, Alexa Wojtek, Deputy Director, Office of Energy Programs with the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, and last but not least, Travis Kellerman, Senior Climate Policy Advisor for the Governor of New Mexico. We also hosted an official UNFCCC side event on public-private solutions for clean energy and decarbonizations, with insight from key figures like Brenda Malloy, Chair of the White House Council on Environmental Quality, Paul Lau, Chief Executive Officer and General Manager of Sacramento Municipal Utility Director, or SMUD, and Davina Hurt, Chair of the Bay Area Air Quality Management District and a member of the California Air Resources Board, as well as Washington State Senator Joe Nguyen. So besides our own programming, we contribute to other panels on net zero commitments, global carbon footprint standards, and reinforcing the importance of credible emissions reporting and verification. So finally, I'd like to extend our deep gratitude to all our sponsors and valued partners for making our presence at COP29 possible. Their support enables us to continue advancing climate action at every level and to make sure that U.S. subnational leaders are represented at these important climate talks. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Lauren.
Thanks, Amy, and hi, everyone. So now moving into some policy updates. As we shared last year, there has been activity in the development of regulations requiring companies to disclose their greenhouse gas emissions globally and within the federal level and the state level across the U.S. So first, beginning with updates on regulations in the U.S., the SEC Climate Disclosure Rule has been paused since April 2024. The Trump administration may try to repeal the rule completely or just maintain the pause of its implementation. Either way, we can expect that the rule will not take effect during the current administration. Additionally, the regulatory language is being developed by the California Air Resources Board, which is currently soliciting public feedback to help inform its work to implement the California Climate Corporate Data Accountability Act, also known as SB 219, which amends the climate disclosure framework established in SB 253 and 261. We encourage you, our members, to review the feedback questions and submit comments. The deadline to submit your comments is March 21st, and we are closely monitoring the progress and awaiting to review the regulatory language that is currently expected to be adopted by July 1st. Other states that are following California's lead and have introduced their own climate corporate data accountability acts. These bills are based off of California's disclosure bill with minor differences, including different timelines. So if passed, New York's bill would begin in 2027 and New Jersey's in 2028. So as mentioned, we will continue to follow these bills through their respective state legislative process and inform you of any updates as we receive them. And moving into some international regulatory updates, it has recently come to light that the European Union may pass some updates to the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, or CSRD regulation. The primary objective is to reduce the reporting requirements through the introduction of the Omnibus Simplification Package on February 26th. Proposal can reshape the international landscape for sustainability reporting. However, no final proposal exists. We are keeping an eye on this as well, and we'll share any updates as they are available. Next slide. On our end, we are excited to share that we have been working hard to bring you new and updated guidance documents this year. One of these documents that will be published by the second quarter is the Guidance on Accreditation. The Guidance on Accreditation provides an overview of key aspects of the accreditation process, the approach, and requirements for organizations that are considering becoming a TCR-approved verification body. The new Guidance on Accreditation will incorporate updates from the General Verification Protocol version 3.0 that was published last year. Later this year, we also intend to publish an updated version of the guidance on how to set and achieve greenhouse gas reduction goals that will incorporate setting carbon neutrality and net zero emissions targets. And lastly, our newly developed guidance document titled Guidance to Understand the Differences Between General Reporting Protocol and GHG Protocol, which leads me into the next slide. So we have developed a guidance document to support our members who may be subject to mandatory reporting regulations that require the use of the greenhouse gas protocol. TCR members have the option of reporting greenhouse gas emissions into CRIS, either using TCR's General Reporting Protocol, or GRP, or the Greenhouse Gas Protocol Corporate Standard, or GHG Protocol for short. This document provides guidance for understanding the minor differences between the two protocols. It's not a comprehensive guide for reporting using the greenhouse gas protocol. So if you are required to report using it, please make sure you refer to the GHG protocol to ensure you are in compliance. Some notable differences include that the GHG protocol does not allow for the subset of an organizational boundary to be used. The GHG protocol also requires consolidation at multiple levels, so the parent company must decide on a consolidation approach to be used at all levels of the organization. There is a slight language difference between the GRP and GHG protocol when it comes to reporting boundaries. What the GRP identifies as reporting boundaries is referenced as operational boundaries in the GHG protocol. And another difference is that GHG protocol requires reporting a base year and developing a base year emissions recalculation policy. However, you can reference TCR's guidance on tracking emissions over time to comply with this requirement. The guidance document will be published this month, and we will share the final document with you when it's published or when it's completed. All right, and moving into our next section, a membership overview. We sent out an end-of-year member survey, and we appreciate those who participated and shared their feedback with us. The survey captured responses from members, which will help us continue to focus on program development that is important to you and to improve our membership offerings. So in the next section, we'll go over some of the feedback we received from the survey. Next slide. First, just a quick update on the breakdown of our membership. We ended 2024 with 177 members, and the pie chart on the screen just summarizes a breakdown of the carbon footprint registry members by sector. Some of our largest sectors include utilities, government, academia, water, and professional services. And we also have other members from other sectors, including, but not limited to, transportation, nonprofit, energy, manufacturing, food and beverage, among others. And listed on the screen here are the top 4 climate impacts on business that members identified in that year-end survey as motivators for reporting their emissions, focusing on regulatory requirements. Ensuring readiness as regulations continue to be introduced is important as they bring challenges and opportunities to bring our economy closer to a net zero emissions future. We are working hard to keep our members up to date with regulations as they are introduced or as changes are made, and we'll continue to address the specific concerns in navigating the complexities of complying with regulations. Next slide. And the key motivators for being a member of TCR include climate leadership, planning for the future, transparency, and streamlined verification. These were selected during the year-end survey as well. We plan to continue enhancing the current offerings and are working on developing an additional tools for more advanced greenhouse gas reporting tools and resources. More information is to come as we finalize development. Also in the survey, members also shared a diversity of strategies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions that include, but are not limited to, energy efficiency upgrades, adopting renewable energy, and procuring green energy. We are proud to see members taking a comprehensive approach to sustainability and taking multiple paths to minimize their greenhouse gas emissions. And we look forward to engaging with you more and spotlighting the innovative ideas used to reduce your carbon footprints. Next slide. And now is the final slide, providing a recap of the year-end member survey responses. There were 3 top reporting resources that members identified, which include the CRIS5 Reporting 101 training webinar, the CRIS5 user guide, and calculation tools like the vehicle fleet calculation tool and the refrigerant calculation tool. Those are available in our member portal, and we will continue to provide annual refreshers like the CRIS5 Reporting 101 and interactive tutorials to help improve and simplify your GHG reporting. Next slide. And now looking ahead, the first member town hall will be happening a month from now on March 13th at 11 a.m. Pacific. We would really like to hear from you about your thoughts on carbon disclosure policies that are being introduced and implemented here in the US federally and at state and local levels. During the town hall, we would also be interested to hear about how carbon disclosure efforts will impact your company and what the best case scenario on using the carbon disclosure data. And the sign-up link will be included in the February member update that you'll be receiving tomorrow. And at the last town hall and in the member survey, there was a positive interest for members to be engaged within the TCR community to collaborate on sustainability initiatives, peer learning, and shared problem solving. We would like to establish at least 1 to 2 working groups by summer that will plan to meet quarterly. We anticipate to have approximately 20 to 30 members participate in each working group. Members will be required to complete a short application of interest to join the working group, and applications include a section for those who are interested in chairing or co-chairing the working groups. Next slide. And before we get a little too far ahead of ourselves, we would like to have some further input from you today as to which topics have the greatest interest in terms of working groups. So we're gonna launch a poll here. If you could just take about a few seconds to let us know your feedback, and I'll give you all about a minute to do so. Hope everyone's had a chance to submit their feedback via the poll. Thank you for doing so. As we continue to work on developing the working groups, we'll notify you of any updates. And it looks like the top two topics were carbon neutrality and net zero and energy. All right, and now I'll pass it back to Elsie to share about reporting reminders.
Thank you, Lauren. So for some reporting reminders, you can now create an inventory year to report for 2024. Emission factors have been updated in CRIS and will be accessible to you when you create a new reporting year. All new inventories are to be created in CRIS 5. As we will be sunsetting CRIS 4, we will be working with members and verifiers who are currently finalizing the verification of inventories in CRIS 4. And as inventories receive TCR accepted status, they will be migrated from CRIS 4 to CRIS 5. Verification is an independent assessment of an organization's GHG inventory conducted by an independent third party or verification body to ensure accuracy, transparency, and compliance with reporting standards. For some reminders, verification is voluntary. It's not required when reporting your greenhouse gas inventory. However, if your organization is interested in having TCR make your inventory publicly available, your inventory must undergo third-party verification and receive a positive verification finding. As a reminder, a positive finding is when the verifier is able to claim that your inventory is free from material misstatement or errors. Verification is also not included in TCR's membership fees. It's a separate process where you contract directly with a verification body. We highly recommend that you do take that next step after completing your inventory to undergo verification. If your organization is interested, there are resources available in our member portal, including informational verification FAQs, a guide to understanding verification costs, and the list of TCR approved verification bodies that you would be required to work with. We'd also like to mention that we are looking into bringing back TCR's batch verification program, which is a cost-effective greenhouse gas verification program for eligible inventories. Generally, it's geared towards small office-based organizations with a low amount of total emissions. We might be reaching out to you for more feedback and to gauge interest in the near future. Some CRIS 5 reminders. We are requiring that all TCR members to report new mission years in CRIS 5. And if you haven't seen it yet, please take a look and explore the new user interface at carbonreporting.org, where we've launched a new dashboard which features analytics for your organization's emissions data. All members at the essential level have 2 user credentials to access CRIS 5. If you are unsure of your login or who from your organization has access, you can email us at the help desk. And the user guide is available with step-by-step instructions on how to report in CRIS 5, which you can find in the member portal. In the member portal, you'll also be able to find all resources and guidance documents, which is hosted on Wild Apricot. So the link to that is the climateregistry.wildapricot.org. If you are unsure of your login credentials here as well, you can email us and we'll be including the link to the member portal in the follow-up email as well. And specifically, once you're logged in, under the reporting resources and forums is where you'll find all of our current user guides, protocols, and guidance documents. And as a quick plug, you can also find all of our events and webinar library, including slides in Wild Apricot as well. In this section, we'll be talking about opportunities for our members to be recognized for their emission reduction and goal setting efforts. The reporting member logo is for the purpose of sharing our members' accomplishments and efforts in reducing emissions and achieving sustainability goals. It's available to all reporting members, and with using this logo, you can promote your efforts in monitoring, tracking, and reporting greenhouse gas emissions. We can provide guidance on how and where to use the logo and are happy to answer any of your questions. I want to also introduce our new recognition program, the Climate Registered Accelerator. As the corporate sustainability landscape changes, we want to keep up with new standards in order to recognize climate leaders in the space. So, we are implementing a more rigorous criteria which will recognize your achievements over time. Additionally, we aim to amplify transparency and the importance of third party verification in order to successfully reduce GHG emissions and achieve a net zero target. To help reduce confusion between the previous Climate Registered program, we have renamed the new program the Climate Registered Accelerator. You'll notice that we have changed the names and for the tiers and their associated logos. Unlike the previous program, the Climate Registered Accelerator is not tied to a verified emissions year. So you can maintain your recognition status or advance to the next level by completing an application within the 5-year period. All levels will now be required to complete an application as we are removing automatic recognition. Once recognized as a climate registered accelerator, you'll have access to the logo for the level you're being recognized for. And in addition, you'll be listed in the TCR newsletter and website. And depending on which level you're recognized for, your organization's achievements will be promoted on TCR's social media platform, which includes a blog post, interview, and or a case study of your organization's accomplishments. We're, of course, in a transition phase, and I know you'll have a lot of questions, so feel free to contact us at the help desk to talk through how this will affect your organization. You can find last year's webinar where we walk through the new recognition program and the accompanying application in the member portal. To provide a little recap, within the application, a public base year is required for all tiers and must be third-party verified in order to be public. Multiple inventories must also be verified within the last 5 years. You can include up to 5 in the application, but visionary status requires at least 2 years, champion and hero require at least 3, and all-star requires at least 4. A public goal is required for applications with a reduction goal or a carbon neutrality or net zero target, but is not required for the lowest tier, which is visionary. An overview statement of the goal is required for all participants. The only difference is that the lowest tier, visionary, is asked about how their emissions data is used to further sustainability goals, while the remaining tiers are asked for a brief explanation of their greenhouse gas reduction goal. The pathway description is asked for all tiers, excluding visionary, and allows participants to describe any challenges or opportunities encountered on their journey to achieve the stated goal. This is basically a summary of everything mentioned in the previous slide, broken down by tier. Just note that the minimum achievement to receive hero tier status requires meeting an interim target or benchmark towards your emissions reduction, carbon neutrality, or net zero goal, whereas to receive all-star status, net zero must be achieved. The use of goal setting, which is a new feature in CRIS, as well as creating a profile in the net zero portal are highly encouraged. The creation of a net zero profile is in fact required for an all-star tier status, but for a full list of benefits and criteria, please visit us online at the recognition section. As mentioned previously, we've had the pleasure of awarding recognition status under the new Climate Registered Accelerator program to a few organizations in 2024. The first is Johns Hopkins. To meet visionary status, Johns Hopkins provided 2 verified inventories and a public base year, and they explained how they used data from CRIS to develop a new climate action and sustainability plan. Their plan outlines their pathway to meet net zero by 2040 and includes ambitious goals for emissions reduction, research and teaching, environmental justice, transportation improvements, and more. Next, we have the Alameda Contra Costa Transit District. To meet champion status, AC Transit provided 4 years of verified inventories and a public base year. and described how their publicly disclosed GHG reduction target of 97% by 2040, in it how it includes an interim target of 50% reductions by 2030. Their planned climate actions include converting one of California's largest bus fleets to 100% clean fuels, facility energy upgrades, conservation projects, and on and off-site renewable electricity. Next, we have the California Department of Water Resources, or DWR. DWR provided 3 years of inventories, verified inventories, and a public base year, a public carbon neutrality goal of 2035, and described how they met and surpassed their target of reducing emissions by at least 60% below 1990 levels, which is an interim target in their carbon neutrality goal, which includes supplying 100% zero carbon electricity load by 2035. To achieve hero status, DWR surpassed their interim target using power purchase agreements, otherwise known as PPAs, for renewable and zero carbon energy, as well as energy efficiency upgrades and refurbishments, and they achieved the Zero Net Energy ZNE building compliance. Another awardee with hero status is Stanford University. Stanford provided 3 years of verified inventories as well as a public base year. They have a public net zero goal of 2050, and they described how they achieved their interim target of 100% renewable electricity sources ahead of schedule in 2022. Stanford achieved emission reductions through groundbreaking innovations in energy efficiency using heat recovery, thermal storage, and energy plant optimization at their central energy facility. Further efficiency gains are expected from these technologies, along with future decarbonization efforts in existing buildings. You can find more details about Stanford's groundbreaking strategies, their goals for tackling the hardest to abate emissions, and their dedication to knowledge sharing by reading their spotlight on TCR's website, which is in the news section and will be included in the follow-up email. Before we get to Q&A, we do have a few events that you should be saving the date for. Join us on March 13th for the next member town hall to discuss carbon disclosures and their impacts on your organization. Please don't miss TCR at San Francisco Climate Week in April. And stay tuned for a webinar in May on changes to Article 6 of the Paris Agreement and how that will affect the carbon market, as well as a June webinar on strategies and products that organizations can use to avoid greenwashing and greenhushing claims. And quickly, some final reminders. If you have any questions, please contact us at the help desk. That's what we're here for. Subscribe to our newsletter and follow our social media accounts to hear important member updates, register for upcoming TCR events, catch up on previous webinars, and learn from fellow members. And with that, I'd like to open up to questions. As a reminder, you can write your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and we will get to them. Doesn't appear that we've received any questions, but as always, you can contact us at the help desk if there's anything that you need more clarification on, or if you'd like to learn more about the Climate Registered Accelerator, or anything related to regulatory updates, and we'll be happy to help. As a reminder, please begin using Chris 5 and the as well as the member portal to gain resources. There is one question they're asking if there'll be any additional webinars or information specific for state agencies later on. The answer is yes, we will be having a state agency reporting kickoff as well. So yes, there will be some additional webinars throughout the later portion of the year. We just haven't locked down dates, but you'll definitely be you'll definitely be sure to find out about it in our member updates that we send out once a month. And another question is, what is the progress on more verifiers? Many of these verifiers seem to not do work in the US when we last went to market. Lauren, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, so we will, this is something we're going to work on this year, is working with more verification bodies. I don't have a specific update right now, but in terms of having difficulties when you're trying to work with the verification bodies, if you run into anything like that, with working out the contracts with them, or if they're not responsive, please let us know. You can contact us at the help desk, and we can help you.
Last question is about the slides. You will be receiving slides as well as the recording of this webinar in the follow-up email. So we will definitely be sending those out. We'll hold it open for a few more questions. Yeah, thank you again for joining and hearing about 2025's updates. Another question is about regarding the Climate Registered Accelerator. Are there any All-Star members now? Could you repeat the criteria for All-Star? For sure. So for All-Star criteria, you need, thank you. So for All-Star, you need to have a public base year. You need to have at least 4 verified inventories within the last 5 years. You have to have a public net zero target, and you have to have achieved net zero target, which we understand is difficult, and is why we're increasing the rigor for these achievements. So to achieve HERO, you only have to have achieved an interim target on the way to either a simple emissions reduction goal, a carbon neutrality target, or a net zero target. So that's kind of the borderline between HERO and All-Star. HERO, you have to have achieved an interim target, whereas for All-Star, you have to have actually achieved net zero. And there are currently no All-Star members now, but we expect that as we get more information out about this program, that there will be, because there are a few organizations that have achieved net zero. And as a reminder, as it's not tied to a base year or a single reporting year, you can apply for a set of years, and you, as an organization, will be able to maintain that status for 5 years, and after which you can reapply to maintain that status. So that way we can ensure that organizations are maintaining progress throughout the reporting journey. And reach out to us if you have any more questions on that. And yeah, we'll keep it open for a little bit longer for a few more questions to trickle in. But otherwise, we thank you greatly for joining us. And we look forward to providing further credible carbon reporting and helping you all with your journeys. And obviously stay tuned for the follow-up email with the webinar recording and all of the additional details and materials that we referenced today. Doesn't look like we are receiving any more questions, so we will be ending it here, and look forward to working with you all.